Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Sip. My name is Oliver. My mission is to make you excited about organic Japanese green tea. And today what we're gonna dive into is into two different emperor's tea. So here, first tea, what do we have? We have the Yabukita Cha Musume. So this is a Yabukita cultivar Gyokuro. So one single cultivar Gyokuro, and we have another one single cultivar tea, and this one here is the Saimidori Cha Meijin Gyokuro, two very high grade cultivars, and we're gonna compare in this set or in this daily sip. We're gonna dive into what the difference is between these two cultivars and actually how the taste is different, just to get that you get an idea of how different the taste can be also between same made tea or same kind of tea, which is in this case the Gyokuro. So when we dive into Japanese green tea, as you might know also from other videos, Yabukita is really the one which you see the most. Yabukita, most famous cultivar, which is actually existing in Japan. So cultivars same as varietals in wine. So we have here the tea type, which is here in this case the Yabukita. Most of the tea is done with the Yabukita. When you go to the south, where this tea is from, this tea here, you could say that around 40 to 50% of all the tea plants in the south of Japan are made with Yabukita. So it's not as popular than in Shizuoka, where we talk about 90%, due to the frost resistance of this plant and due to the colder weather in Shizuoka, which is closer to Tokyo and more in the middle of Japan. Meanwhile, Kyushu is really on the very, very south of the main island. And when you walk around the Kyushu, when you walk around the region of Kagoshima, you see more cultivars, different cultivars. You have much more variety due to the fact that there you have a mild climate and a lot of different cultivars can actually grow. And there also the Samidori is grown. It's not said that when you're in Shizuoka you cannot find Samidori, but they're much harder to find. As you know, 90 to 95% is Yabukita. There's not much space for other cultivars, and mostly they use cultivars like, for example, Okomidori, which has quite a good frost resistance too. But when we go for Samidori, Samidori is actually also a crossbreed from Yabukita and Asatsuyu. Reason, Asatsuyu, very southern, very delicate, and slow or small yield cultivar. This one here is then crossed with the Yabukita for giving a bigger yield, for giving more leaves, which then lead to more tea for the farmers. So Samidori in general is a little bit a cultivar which is really a sweet cultivar, mainly in the south. It's quite difficult to grow it with hard winds, so you have to protect it from the winds. When it is cold, it's not so cold resistant, so it always has to be, if you have a farm in the more north, in the further north, it has to be protected from wind, and you need some installation which are really protecting the plant from the frost. If you're in the south, it's much easier to cultivate it. That's why Samidori you also see much more in the south. So as I said, it's a crossbreed between Yabukita and Asatsuyu. So actually they are of the same plant, but already this one is a more developed or different developed type of tea plant due to the fact that it is a crossbreed. They were able to manage also that this tea has quite a different taste profile. When we just look at the aspect of the tea leaves, we see that the Yabukita has also longer leaves, longer needles in comparison to the Samidori. And you see this also when you harvest the tea leaves. The Samidori tea leaves are a little bit less big, so they're a little bit smaller, slightly smaller, but still they're a little bit smaller, and you can see it in the aspect of the tea leaves. And when we talk also about Samidori, Samidori is one of the tea with the highest amount of amino acids, leading to a very sweet, very savory, lot of umami taste profile. So in terms of taste, where we dive in later, is also that Samidori has an advantage versus the Yabukita when you're looking for more this kind of kind of umami kick, this kind of savory sweetness there. If you're going for a non-astringent tea especially, then you should aim more for the Samidori. Yabukita, very, very liked due to its broad taste spectrum, liked because it has a very different taste varieties, also in the same brew, so you get a little bit of grassiness, you get sweetness, you get savoriness, but you also can get quite a small freshness to it, a little bit of a grassy taste. Meanwhile, the Samidori strictly or kind of goes more into the direction of being a little bit more savory. You can get some nutty flavors which are coming with it. There's quite some complexity also in this taste, but it's much finer. It's kind of much tighter together, but in this smaller space, the Samidori can play a lot around. Meanwhile, the Yabukita really goes broad and gives you a very diverse taste profile. And then finally, it's really a little bit your choice. What am I actually looking for? What do I want when I go into tea? When I go into tea tasting, what's actually the aspects, the notes I want, I wish for myself? And then you can choose either Yabukita or you go into the Samidori. So this is a little bit the background. Yabukita, it's now around 112 years old, so it is said that is 1908 this tea was invented. Meanwhile, in 1969, this is what the Samidori dates back, so it's a much younger tea in terms of how it developed and how it was registered. So the Samidori still kind of a tea which has to find a little bit its way still into the Japanese tea market, but Yabukita is really the one which is the most common, and this is also when you talk to Japanese people, often they know the Yabukita, and then when you go a little bit more into single cultivar teas and other cultivar teas, their knowledge is not as widespread. So it is also for Japanese people quite a discovery when they dive once into the tea world and the tea world of Japanese green tea. So here what we have is we have two Gyokuros, both are shaded for 21 days and both then are harvested, but at a different time. Samidori is a little bit of an early budding cultivar. Here we talk around 7 days earlier than the Yabukita. So also Mr. Sakamoto, who is the farmer of these two teas, he first harvests the Samidori. You also have in the shading process, normally you shade it for 7 days just with one cover. There you still have a little bit of light coming through, and then when he covers it for the rest 14 days, then you really have 3 layers not getting any sunlight through, which is then pushing up the theanine content, or just keeps the theanine content on a very high level. Then you don't have a lot of catechins moving in, the tea gets savory, the plant absorbs a lot of minerals, is a little bit stressed and therefore tries to nourish itself to a maximum. You have the chlorophyll which raises up because the plant tries to absorb as much sunlight as possible. This gives them this special savory taste for the Yabukita and also for the Samidori. Gyokuro in general, a very high potent tea in minerals, in amino acids. What you find a little bit less in Gyokuro is the catechins, so the detoxifying particles, they're a little bit lower, but here we talk, for example, 10 versus 13 or 14%. So it's not a big difference of all the minerals which are in the tea that you have between, for example, a sencha, which is sun-grown in comparison to a Gyokuro. Meanwhile, the Gyokuro, which is shade-grown, has a much higher level of theanine, for example, or of an amino acids. There we talk about maybe 2,200 grams per 100 gram of tea versus 1,200, 1,300 per 100 grams of tea. So there the difference is quite impressive. That's why also shaded green teas are often very interesting, due to the fact that the amino acid content is much higher. And also for us Westerners, we don't like too much when it's too bitter, or some people do, but most of us, we don't really look for the astringent tea. We actually don't like green tea because it's astringent, when we don't know that there are very different types of green tea and that there are also very sweet green teas. We often tend to go a little bit or shy away from green tea, but we can play around a little bit with temperature of the water to bring down the sweetness, but especially when you have a shaded green tea, there you definitely have green teas which then develop the savory, sweet, even fruity flavor profile. But said enough, let's go into the tasting of these two teas. So I brought same Kyushu to compare these two teas, and we just gonna preheat them a little bit. Number one and number two, just a little bit of water, and then we're gonna pour it. I get rid of the first one, and I get rid of the second water here. There we have the same circumstances for both teas. And now let's have a look. So we take 5 grams of the Samidori and 5 grams of the Yabukita. And let's dive into this tasting. I take around 100, I would say 120 milliliters. Now for the brewing, what is important is that for Gyokuro you give it a little bit of time. Also the lid, you don't have to put it on, you can just put it on the side. Gyokuro, you can really see and watch the leaves then slightly or slowly unfold. What is important is that you give it at least 2 minutes. Some people say you can even give it up to 3 minutes. Here I used water now 60 degrees Celsius, so quite a low temperature. We talk about 140 Fahrenheit. And we're gonna leave it in for 2 minutes instead of 1, which is the normal temperature of a sencha, for example, because senchas, they're not as tightly rolled, especially also Fuka Mushicha, so the deep steam tea, which have smaller and more brittle tea leaves, there we talk about 40 seconds, here 2 minutes, as the leaves are quite tightly rolled, they're rich in theanine, so they're nearly a little bit sticky, so you have to give them a little bit time to really unfold and then to develop this nice savory taste profile. So give it a little bit of more time, but 2 minutes is good. 2 minutes is the time which I take normally to just brew the tea. Good. So when I look at the tea leaves, they slightly unfurl. So slowly we are getting ready. We put the lid back on, and I think I will start to pour. And I started with this one here. So Samidori first, and done. Try to get out all of the water, and then the Yabukita. Try again here, that really everything is out. Good. Okay. So let's have a look at the leaves. Yabukita leaves, well, sorry. So here the Yabukita leaves, you can see there's nicely open, still a little bit closed. So with the next brewings, I think they will open up fully, but still we have a good openness of the leaves already, which you can see here with this one here. Samidori, pretty similar, but they are a little bit smaller, the leaves. Cannot see that good, so I have a little bit of bad lighting here in this hotel room where I am. Good. So now Samidori here, Yabukita here. So now in terms of liquor, so you can see that the Yabukita goes a little bit more in this dark golden color, a little bit of a greenish, slightly greenish color, but here we have much more this milky taste color, kind of this milky texture as well, which is coming from a little bit this richness of theanine. And what I heard is that this a little bit more milky tones comes from the proteins, amino acids, a little bit more or a little bit richer in the Samidori. That's why you have here with this one a little bit more of a milky texture than with the Yabukita. But they're close to each other, but let's have a sip and see how the taste difference is between these two. So a little bit more of a rich, savory taste profile. A very nice nutty. I get a little bit of hazelnut, a little bit of almond, a little bit of sunflower seed. Very sweet and very delicate, and no kind of tingling, no kind of fresh taste profile. So there's this citrusy, astringency, nothing is present in the Samidori. Now the Yabukita. I got much more of kind of a deeper grassy tone with this tea. Still very sweet, very savory, fruity, but I have a little bit of a tingling, so it shows much more of its catechins. It shows a little bit more of kind of a fresher, refreshing taste profile. And this is the real difference between these two teas. While the Samidori is really strongly built around this savory, this amino acid, sweet, kind of fruity, nutty taste profile, we got much more with the Yabukita. We have kind of a deeper, darker, stronger. So here we get much more kind of a rounder, deeper, but also a little bit more of a greener, grassier taste profile, but still very savory, very sweet, but lets a little bit of space also for more of a citrusy flavor profile. And here with this one here, it really concentrates around this nuttiness, sweetness, savoriness, and not allowing too many other taste profiles like the grass taste, like the citrusy flavor profile getting into the taste profile of this tea. So very, very delicate, very, very round, very sweet, very smooth around the savoriness. And here, just a broader spectrum. It goes a little bit deeper, has a little bit of grassiness, has a little bit of this citrusy taste profile. So it really depends a little bit what you're looking for. My opinion for tonight is the Samidori conquered my heart tonight. What I like about the Samidori especially is there is this smooth nuttiness with it, this kind of fine sweetness, but with this nutty sunflower, a little bit of hazelnut undertone, which is very, very nice. And it's not going into a little bit of a tingling astringency, which you have more with the Yabukita. So tonight, my heart belongs to Samidori. I hoped I could explain you a little bit these tastes. I don't know what your heart would like to have of these two teas, but I enjoyed this session here to discover a little bit two different kinds of single cultivars, Gyokuro here from the south of Japan. And please let me know if you ever have a question or if you want to know something. Feel free to leave a comment, feel free to ask me any question. I'm more than happy to answer them. And this was the Daily Sip of today. I hope I see you tomorrow, and see you and bye bye.